You are only one decision away from a totally different life. Just one. It may be big, it may seem simple, but it can change your world. What is your one decision? In this podcast, I will tell stories, give you tools, inspire you, and hopefully give you strength to make that one decision. Remember that inaction is an action, indecision is a decision. Purposeful decisions allow you to have control over the direction you go. Make that one purposeful decision and see where it takes you. Welcome back to the One Decision Podcast with Dr. Connie Swain. And today I've got a very special friend, J.D. Clark. And hi, J.D.
Hey, Connie.
I will do a formal introduction of JD in a moment. But first of all, I want to remind you to like, share, subscribe to this video, and please let me know if there's any other content you want or anything special. The whole purpose of these videos is to try to encourage you to make your one decision that can literally change your life. So now let me get on to the introductions. Again, I mentioned this is J.D. Clark. He is actually my county judge in Wise County, Texas. And you served 3 terms. You're going into your third term.
Starting my third term on the first. Yeah. Got to be sworn in again. So.
I know. And you've had some opponents the last 2 elections, and you've been able to come out on top. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, so had opponents the first one, second election was unopposed, and then had an opponent this time.
Okay. Okay. Well, cool.
That's part of the process.
Well, and one of the things where I'm looking at you're in your office, but it's a temporary office, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So tell real quickly what that's about.
So we are undergoing a massive and full restoration of our 1895 Wise County Courthouse. It's been a long term goal and wish of the county and the community, and a professional goal of mine as well since I've been in office. And when I ran the very first time, I told people, I said, that's one of my things I want to get done. We've tried and tried. I say we, the county, for 20 years, 20 plus years to get this done. And we've been successful now in receiving that grant from the Texas Historical Commission, which is huge. And we're kicking that project off. And so we all had to get out, obviously, of the building. And we're just down the street, just off the square at 308 West Main, which people will know most recently as this is where Decatur Chamber of Commerce was until they moved into the visitor center with the Main Street program, which is a great fit for them. And so we're in this building, and so we're in temporary digs. My office, the district attorney's office, and district clerk's office are here in this building together, and it's working great. We've been doing potlucks together, and it's been a lot of fun. So.
Well, and it's in a great location, but it's very active, y'all, because you're next door to the other court building,
to the court center. Yeah, so it's bustling.
Yeah, so y'all are in a very active. The one thing I do want to mention is, and I want you to speak to this. I personally know you're very accessible to the public, and that has to be intentional, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I think it's important, and I enjoy it. I enjoy operating that way, and so I make myself accessible, and our office is accessible, and it's not hard to get me. So,
no,
for better or worse.
And you're always about town, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and also along that line, you're about town often with your 3 daughters and your beautiful wife. So tell us about your family.
So I'm married to Leah, and you know Leah, of course, and she's incredible, and I love her so much, and we've known each other our whole lives. Basically, we don't remember not knowing each other, and blessed to be married to her. And we've got 3 little girls. Claire is 6, and she's a first grader, and then Maggie and Zelda are 4-year-old twins, and so we're busy there and have a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I loved, and for any of you who may not know, JD had a stint as a musician, singer. He still loves to sing and play guitar.
Yeah.
And so he treated us to weekly Christmas carols this year.
Yeah,
And
that was fun.
sometimes with his backup band,
Yeah, have some accompaniment sometimes.
the
We
the Pop Girls back there.
as a group together, we
Yeah,
struggle with rhythm, but we had the spirit, and that's what matters. And so
it
it
was
was fun.
greatness.
Yeah.
It was greatness. I do want to mention something, and I think this might encourage you. Um, I was talking to someone about one of the videos, and of course, you and I spoke about this. You had done one of the videos right before it was discovered that little Athena Strand had been murdered. And
Mhm.
that was just such a hard time for our whole community, and well, the nation. You know, I forget where I was, but I was not close to here last week. I was in a totally different part of Texas, and they had pink ribbons for
Yep.
Athena everywhere. So it really affected us. And you continued on doing those videos as a reminder, as painful and innocent of a loss that was. Life still goes on, and you still have to trust the Lord in it and all of those things. So
Yep.
it,
Yep.
it was
Absolutely.
it
Yep.
was good. It was good. Well, tell us a little bit about Leah's job.
So Leah is the executive director of the Bridgeport Economic Development Corporation, and she's tasked with helping to retain and expand and attract business in Bridgeport. And they're booming over there. There's a lot of really cool things happening in Bridgeport, and excited to watch her involved in that. She's just wrapping up her year also as president of the Bridgeport Chamber of Commerce. So she's been neck deep in it over there.
Yeah.
But they're doing great things, and the community's been really innovative, and their downtown's booming, and they've got a great industrial park location and Endeavor Bridgeport out there, and some exciting things happening on 380 with businesses opening, and it's exciting for them, and I'm happy to see that community really season some momentum.
Well, and as a county judge, I know you'll appreciate this. I remember many years ago, well, my husband and I have driven a lot across the state for different reasons, vacation, family, whatever. And there are some towns that you can tell time has just passed them by. And
Mhm.
they have, it's just really sad, right? But Wise County has a lot of communities that have worked very hard to stay vibrant or to revitalize.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Bridgeport is like a shining jewel. I mean, it's
Yep.
and I know Leah, years ago, a few years back, she worked for the chamber and was part of really bringing some life to Bridgeport Chamber.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I love now that she's where she is.
Exactly. Well, and Bridgeport, like a lot of towns, when you had a hard downturn in the oil and gas economy, that hit towns like Bridgeport really hard.
Mhm.
And and like you mentioned, you can drive around and you can find towns in other areas that they took a hit and didn't get back up, and then
Mhm.
you find towns that got scrappy about it and said, well, who are we going to be now, and how are we going to make this work? And I think Bridgeport's been such a shining star of that they said, all right, well, who are we going to be now? And they've really done great things.
They have. It's great. It's been great to watch. It's really been great to watch. Well, let's get on with your one decision.
All right.
I know that when I first met you, um, you were a mayor. I'll let you talk to that, but you were also a teacher.
Yep.
And my office is in Bowie. I knew you taught in Chico, but I didn't realize you taught in
Yeah.
Bowie
No,
as
I
well.
only taught in Bowie actually. So
Oh,
no,
I
yep,
thought you
yep,
taught in
yep.
Chico.
No,
Wow.
I was always at Bowie ISD, at the
Wow.
junior
So
high and high school.
So did you, that was a plan, like you planned to become a teacher or?
Yeah, so So my mom was a teacher. She's a retired teacher, and my whole life she was a teacher. She taught at the elementary and junior high levels. She taught in Decatur for a long time, taught second grade in Decatur for I think 15 years, and then got ready for something different, and she started teaching junior high in Chico, which, I mean, that's a pretty good change from second grade to then
Oh,
go to
yeah.
junior high. So I always saw that. I always and I still love learning. I love writing. I love studying things. And so when I was in college and studying English and history, I thought, well, I'm gonna teach. And then I thought, I might move into school administration later on after I'd worked as a teacher for a while. And so I was finishing up college at North Texas and knew I was going to be finishing. I was graduating. I think it was August 8th or something like that is when I was graduating, and was looking for a job. And Bowie Junior High had a seventh grade reading position open, and applied for that, interviewed for that, got hired, made a lot of great friends over there, and got to actually teach at the junior high level with my second grade teacher, which was really cool, who had taught me in second grade in Chico. And so taught over there, then started doing some other things in Bowie schools, not just doing the seventh grade reading, but then I got a journalism program, and they had me do sixth grade guitar for a couple years when they were adding some electives. Then I moved up to the high school and taught world history up there at the high
Oh,
school
yeah.
level.
Yeah.
And so really loved that. And while I was teaching, I got my master's through Midwestern in educational leadership, again, thinking I was going to go that school administration route. And through some of the other experiences, and some while teaching, some while the mayor service that you mentioned, other doors open and pathways you don't consider or dream up present themselves, and took me a different route than I had expected. And I think that's probably the story a lot of us have, is a route you didn't expect.
Well, I had said before on one of the podcasts, I said sometimes you make the decision and sometimes the decision is made for
Yep.
and other times there are circumstances that just dictate the decision. And so, however it comes about, it's our responsibility to do the best with it that we can. So what made you decide to become a mayor?
Well, so I was on city council first, and where that came about is I worked for the Bridgeport Index and the Chico Texan, and they were two newspapers that operated out of the same company, Bridwell Publishing Company in Bridgeport. They were there on Halsell, downtown Bridgeport. Great longtime Bridgeport company. Keith Bridwell took a chance and hired me when I was 17 years old, and it was a summer between my junior and senior year of high school. And I needed a job, and I liked to write, and so he hired me, and it was summertime. And he said, well, summertime, you've got a flexible schedule. And he sent me to city council, school board, commissioner's court,
Wow.
and just crash course then and how all this worked, and having to quickly figure out who did what were their responsibilities, how is commissioner's court different from a city council. I had a pretty good concept of how a school board worked because my mom was a teacher. But city council, commissioner's court, when you're 17, you've had no reason to be engaged
You
in
don't
those
even know there
things.
are commissioners.
Yeah, exactly. And so really got involved that way. And then I kept working and writing for Keith and his newspapers when I was in college, and covering Chico stuff, especially, and some Bridgeport stuff, and going to commissioners court meetings, things like that. And I just really fell in love with, even as I was still working on, I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to teach school when I finished college, really fell in love with this idea of local government as I experienced that, because I was like, man, we pay so much attention to what's on the news in DC and in Austin, but then these are people that are my neighbors that I know outside this meeting room, and they're trying to figure out how we're going to make sure that our water is clean to drink. How are we going to get these roads fixed? Do we have enough money for law enforcement? What do we need to do? And I was like, this matters. And the other thing that, as a kid who hadn't been engaged in that before, is I was shocked at how little engagement there was from the public. I mean, in a lot of those meetings, I'd be the only person there who wasn't part of the organization or staff. And
Right.
that's troubling. We don't pay enough attention to that. And you and I have talked about that before. And this stuff matters. It's our schools, it's our law
Yes.
enforcement, it's our court system, it's our roads, the water we drink, all that. So got involved in it that way. Then I was encouraged. I was in college. I was 20 and had been covering all the Chico stuff heavily. That's my hometown, and writing things about what city council was working on and what issues they're facing. And I was encouraged by some people in Chico, in my hometown, to say, "Well, hey, you're there. You're learning about this. You've got some ideas. We've got this council seat coming up. Toss in for it. Maybe a fresh perspective would be good." And I thought, okay, well, I'll do that a little bit. And so I got on city council and was serving with some great people and really enjoying that. And after a few years, we had a great mayor at the time. James Robinson was a great mayor of Chico, and he he had asked me then at one point later on. He said, "Would you be interested in serving as mayor pro tem?" And I thought, that's no big deal. That's not a commitment. All that means is if you can't make a meeting, then
I'll be
I'll
there.
handle the meeting for you. Yeah, no big deal. Yeah. And pathways, you say, sure, I'll whatever you need me to do. Well, probably about a month or two after that happened, he called me one evening and asked me to stop by his house, and he let me know that he'd been diagnosed with cancer, and he said it's bad, and I don't know, I don't know that I'm gonna how this is gonna go. And he said, "I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to be putting some more things on you." And by the end of that year, he had passed,
Wow.
and so then I was, just kind of tossed into that situation by
Yeah.
circumstance. Like, well, I'm going to step up and serve like I should. And so I continued doing that, and then was, appreciative and blessed that my hometown chose me to continue as mayor. And we did a lot of good work over there, and I'm still exceptionally proud of things that we did, and infrastructure projects that we did that were long needed, and some long-term planning for Chico, and still support and cheerlead for Chico heavily,
Yeah.
and want to see great things for them. But so ended up in that mayor's role that way. And at the same time, because I mean, you know how the small cities are set up. That's not a full-time job or
No,
anything.
no,
That's a public service you provide. And
Mhm.
so I was teaching school and serving as mayor at the same time, and it was handy because I'd get done with school and could run by city hall and get done what I needed to do. And in the summertime, I wasn't teaching, and that's budget season for the cities, and so I
So
had
it
plenty
worked
of
out
time to help
well.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out.
Uh-huh.
And then as I'm doing that, just kind of a combination of things. I'm getting to know these students, and and I mentioned that I started in seventh grade reading and then got moved to several other programs. Well, that meant I worked with a lot of the same kids
Yeah.
over the years as they
Wow.
grew up, and getting to know them and just seeing, as teaching them world history and things like that, just their cynicism of they had of government structures, and what they should do and what they could do and what they ought to be doing. Pretty negative outlook, and you can understand why when you think about the world that they have grown up in and what they've seen
Yeah.
as examples. And but they knew me, and they knew what I was doing in my town, and so it's like, well, and so I thought, okay, so if you know somebody you can point to and say, well, I know that guy and I know what he's doing in his town as mayor, there's some glimmer of hope there, I
Yeah.
think. And
Exactly.
then at the same time, I'm in this role as mayor that I didn't expect to be in, and falling more and more deeply in love with this idea of local government and being excited about seeing things that we're accomplishing in my hometown. At the same time, being a young man, getting ready to start a family here, and seeing all the growth that at that time we were seeing on the horizon for Wise County.
Uh-huh.
that's now, manifested itself, and it's here. It's here.
Yes. Yes.
And being concerned about, are we doing all the right things to get ready and manage this to be growth like
Right.
we want it to be, and also a desire to help be part of the team that makes sure we do it right. And being a guy who grew up here and loves this place, loves the communities and the distinct character of our communities, I wanted to have a role in making sure we don't lose that. And so that led me more down the path of, well, what other way can I serve and be part of that? And it led me to county government, and
It's incredible.
and working on that still. So.
Well, and I love, as you're talking about that, that's so true. The kids today, young people, college age down. As you were saying that, I was like, what kind of an example is being set for them with all the craziness that has just overtaken, right? And it is so important because these are our future. These kids, my grandkids, are
Yep.
our future. And if they don't have an appreciation, and if they learn the wrong way, there are so many people that are doing things. The only way I can say it is the wrong way. In other words, they're not being honorable in the way
Yep.
they're handling their position.
Well,
And
you look at the examples that they're going to see. They're going to see whoever's making the news, and that's
yeah,
generally not for good things.
uh-uh,
But unless you bring it to them, those students
right.
don't have a reason to know who's in their local government
That's right.
and the things that they're working on. And so I never turn down a chance to go talk to students,
I love that.
because we've got to be diligent about explaining to them, here's what your local government does, here's why that matters, here are people that in your community that are doing this. And what I always tell them, I said that local government is the best form of government we have, because it's neighbors and neighbors working on the community. I don't go live and serve somewhere else while I'm representing this area. I'm here. You see me in the grocery store, in the coffee shop, the gas station. We're in this together, and that's why I think it works best. And we have to go to those students and talk to them, because they don't have a reason to be engaged with us.
No. Well, and it's funny, as you were saying that, two things came to mind. When I was in the high school, my mother worked, I don't know what department. All I know, it was in the tax office, okay, but I don't know exactly. In Marshall, right?
Okay. Yep.
I was exposed to a lot of the local government people, but of course I went to church with some of them and that kind of thing. But today, that's not necessarily always the case, okay, for whatever reason. But the main thing, as you're saying this, I love almost the dichotomy. And of course, you're in such a unique position, but it took somebody that is unique with that perspective. So you're looking forward, trying to expose the future leaders to these things, right? But you're also appreciative of the importance of preserving the past, because of your love for history. And, you talked about the project with the courthouse. One of the things, and I thought not the last time we were down there, because it was for that prayer gathering, but I was there for a previous thing, and it was at sunset. And there's 2 times a day where the courthouse literally glistens, and it's sun up and sun down, because it's the granite. And people walk by, and I just start telling them about the courthouse, and I'm like, I should be like a tour guide. But anyway, it is.
We'll put you on our list after it reopens. So.
Well, it is important to preserve the past. Who is it that said, those who don't know or don't remember the past are doomed to repeat the whatever, the quote I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it is important for our future leaders to understand where we've come from and the price that's been paid.
Well, and I think too, our challenge is, and you and I've talked about this before, is just like when I was talking about the students don't have a reason to be engaged with their local government. So you got to bring it to them. and
Right.
tell them how it works, why it's important. Same with all the new people moving into Wise County. We
That's
can't
true.
expect them to just move to Wise County and suddenly know and appreciate our local history. We have to make it accessible. We have to share it with them. We got to put it in front of them,
That's true.
and make them fall in love with this community's history and character and heritage that we all have.
Right.
And most of them will if it's accessible to them and they have a chance to learn it. But
Yeah.
if we're just thinking, well, they're going to move into this new subdivision and somehow miraculously absorb this history. No, we as a community have to be putting it out there and sharing it with them. And there's no better way to capture their attention about our local history than that courthouse on the hill. Because
Oh, yeah.
everybody sees it, everybody wants to know more about it. That's how we get them in, And then at the same time, you start telling them stories about people that have served in this building, things that have happened here. You can point them up the other hill to the Heritage
Oh,
Museum, then send
yes.
them to the next thing. And
Hmm.
that's how we get them in and get their interest, churning about Wise County and what makes it unique.
And it's very special.
It
Very
is. It
special.
is.
And
And I know people not from here probably roll their eyes when I say that. And I know probably but it's special. It is. This is a special place. And we're in a special time right now with the right people in
Mhm.
place and on the team, and our communities all chugging along together. And it's a special place and we have to preserve that. I don't want it to just be another bedroom community on the highway.
No, I love, I was talking to somebody recently after the most recent election in November, how so many of our people, after the primary, you were one, just were put into the position because there was no um, opposite party opponent. you know there
Yeah,
was
yeah,
no other opponent, and they were able to come in, which I think speaks a lot to the values within our community, but also a lot. I can't think of one person that has been elected to office in Wise County that isn't as passionate as you are about preserving all of it, the
yep,
special the special heart of our community, as well as the maintaining solid honorable government and growing in a positive way.
yep.
It's good stuff.
And even beyond the electeds, if you look at and get to know our team of appointed department heads that we have,
Yes.
oh my gosh, they are first class, and could make a whole lot more money going to work somewhere else because they are so talented. But they too believe in who Wise County is and what we're doing here. And this Wise County team is just incredible. So
Yeah, it is. As a realtor, I meet with a lot of different people from a lot of different areas and this, that, and I showed houses to this guy a couple of weeks ago, and he lives on the other side of the metroplex. And as I'm showing him these houses and we're driving around, it's like I have all these stories, all
yep,
these stories
yep,
of history. They're historical stories of, oh, well, one time such and such happened, and I'm not a native, and
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
because we do have such a rich history.
But you've gotten engaged and fallen in love with the history of it,
That's true.
and it's a wild history here, and it matters. And all those things have influenced who we are and how we do things here,
It
and it
is.
all matters.
It all matters. It's very good. Well, so when you decided to run, what was the one thing that made you make that decision? I know, because beginning to fall in love with it is one thing, but putting yourself out there with the what comes against you when you're running for
Hmm.
public office, what made you decide you wanted to do that?
Well, I would just say that I'm generally not scared off of things, and if I believe in something and want to work on something, that's it, and I want to work on it. And so the things, when I look back and read some of the stuff, in ads and mailers that I did the first time I ran, all those projects I can look at and say, yep, 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 we got all those done. That's what matters, and things that I'm still working on and trying to get to. And so I wasn't, it wasn't scary to me to go talk to people about work that I wanted to do in Wise County, because it's important and I believe in it. And I love talking to people about Wise County. And so it didn't scare me off. And I also think you just don't know until you try. And
Right.
so I thought, if I don't want to later on be upset or concerned about how something is in Wise County and think, gosh, if I had tried to help, maybe it would have been different. It's like I'm leaving it all on the field at this point. And so win or lose, I'm leaving it all on the field. And I've been blessed and fortunate that my neighbors have wanted me to do that work and continue to do that work. And I think it's because they see the direction we're going, and they like it, and they want it to continue. And so to me, getting into it, I mean, I guess I was 29 when I got elected county judge.
Weren't you like the youngest?
Yeah, I was yeah. And and I try not to dwell on that too much. Because to me, it's like, well, can you do the work or can you not?
Right.
And whether you're 29 or 79.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's that's one of the things, when I was 29 and running, and people would say, well, are you, that's pretty young for a county judge. And I'd say, are there some 29-year-olds that don't need to be county judge? Oh yeah. Are there some 69-year-olds that don't need to be county judge? Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's, let's look at the work that we're going to do, and the kind of person that I am. And so, and I'm always willing to stand on that, and
Yeah. Well,
and that work. So
good. So when you walked in to the courthouse the first time, like, your first day of work, were you excited? Were you scared? Were you intimidated? Talk to that, because that's a huge responsibility.
yeah, I was very excited. And the other thing is I won't say that I was intimidated, because I think what a lot of people don't realize about county government is county government is set up to be a team and a system of checks and balances. There's not any one person in charge. And like, I have things that are my responsibilities and duties, but I'm not the boss of the commissioners. I'm not the boss of the sheriff. I'm not the boss of the treasurer, and vice versa on all those things. We're all independent elected officials who have to work together and make sure we can all do our jobs. And because I had been involved in covering and attending commissioners court and county business for so long, I knew all these different team members already. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't like, okay, you're sworn in, now figure out what to do. It's like, okay, now you're sworn in, and you can work with all these people that you already know what they do, and you have relationships with them. And I've been blessed to work with really fantastic county officials who have been great mentors and helped me understand better what they do and the history of what their office does. Kevin Burns is our senior commissioner on the court, and my goodness, I've learned so much from that man. And he's an incredible person and an incredible public servant. Same with Sherry Lemon.
Oh my
I've learned so
gosh.
much from her about the county clerk world, and
Uh-huh.
what she does, and the service she's provided. Catherine Hudson, just all these people that I've been blessed to work with. And I was there at a time that I'm blessed I was able to work in the courthouse with John Fostel and Melton Cood.
Yes.
And that's we've got courtrooms named after those guys, because they matter, and because of the type of service they provided this county. And I was blessed to see that and know those guys. and we need to make sure that people who didn't get to work with them directly still learn about that quality of service. And so,
It's like the
you know,
legacy they
it's
left.
exactly, and it's those relationships. And so coming in, I was excited. um, I would say it's easy to feel overwhelmed walking into that, especially because, and my fellow elected officials in the county will know this, when you get elected, you go to a newly elected officials school, that the state association puts on. And basically that's let me tell you about all these things that other elected officials have done that sent them to jail,
Right.
that's and and you start realizing things like, oh, I didn't really, and now, I mean, going into my third term, there's not much at this point that I haven't seen come across my desk, that falls under mine. But at first, you'd have things come across your desk, and you're like, oh, this is a county judge thing,
I didn't
and
know
and
they did
people,
that. You're right.
yeah, people are surprised, to learn that about my office still, and things they don't think about, like indigent burials. If you have somebody who's truly indigent and dies in your county, who takes care of the burial for them? Well, the county does. Whose desk does that come to? The county judge.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
if the four JPs are out of town,
I know
and
you had,
JPs, yeah, JPs act as coroners in our county. If you don't have a coroner, the JPs do the inquest. If they're out of town, who does a death inquest? This guy, and so it is, I think, easy to feel overwhelmed when you walk into an office like that the first time, because there is so much to it, and you're like, where do I start?
right.
And
Well, and
and
whoever thought when you took office, who would have ever thought that you would be the buck stops here on a pandemic? I mean, seriously,
yeah, well,
to
and you
oversee
just
the
look at,
safety of the entire county.
and then and I reflect on sometimes, something like that was, just the most bizarre thing. But
Uh-huh.
I've had tornadoes, I've had floods, I've had the ice apocalypse, and just
That's
all
true.
these things that, you get a little bit of everything, and it rounds you out as a public servant, and it rounds out the team. And then after each event like that, we have an after action review, and we figure out, what did we do right, what did we not
Sure.
do right, what are holes we identified, and that makes us better as an organization and as a county. So, I mean, heading into this third term, I'm not being flippant, and I'm not daring anything, because then I know you don't know what's around the corner.
Right. Yeah.
But we've got a good team in place for whatever it is. And then just such an awful thing in our community, like the Athena Strand murder. It's just, yeah, emotionally, you're not prepared for that. Even if you got all the right systems in place in your county to respond to things like this, but just emotionally, it's so hard, from a just an individual personal dad level. But at the same time, I had to remind myself, but also, JD, this community needs somebody to hold the center together, and that's why we had the prayer up at the courthouse. It's like we needed to do that together, and it was it was probably more raw and more emotional than it should have been coming from
I thought it
me.
was perfect. It was
But we needed it, and
the
so
entire
that's,
the entire county was grieving. Even, I mean, regardless, it was twofold. Somebody that like an iconic position, a teacher, police officer, whatever. Nobody ever, we've always expected our delivery drivers to be safe people, right?
mhm,
So
mhm.
it set a level of fear that surprised me when I started seeing all the posts on social media, where all of a sudden people became afraid of somebody that comes to their doorstep every day. So it was a level of fear, contrasted with the unbelievable amount of grief as the story unfolded. And of course, I love our sheriff, but watching him and Chief Deputy Johnson and how hard it hit them it was just so indicative of how all of us were grieving.
Yep.
So it was
And
perfect.
it was just, it just shook everybody so much because, a lot of times when something bad happens, you can point to, well, unfortunately, this happened, so then
Right.
this happened. And
Mhm.
that's not what this was. This was something that was completely random, just pure evil.
Yes.
Yes. And evil crossed that girl's path today. And it
Mhm.
just and everybody felt shaken by that because we've all got little kids.
Mhm.
And you think of, I mean, how many deliveries happen every day,
Right.
and you don't think about that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then there happened to be an evil guy
Yep.
cross that path that day, and that shakes you. And just to have that at home realization and reminder, up close in your face and in your home community, that yes, this evil still exists out there, and we gotta take care of our kids.
Well, speaking of which, I'm going to flip this a little bit. So, in your tenure, what is that the toughest, or what are some of the toughest things you've had
Mm.
to face? And because the whole podcast is about one decision that can change your life, and in the moments that these things happen, you have to make a decision, and sometimes the decision comes from your core values and who you are.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's, like we said, external. But speak to that. What are some of the toughest things you've had to deal with?
So emotionally, and two, it's I'm probably just going to this because it's so fresh and raw, but the Athena Strand murder has just been awful. And but even then, I've not had to directly, like, I didn't have to work that case. Those first responders, my goodness, and Sheriff Aiken and his team, they're they're complete rock stars and heroes. And now the DA's office, James Stanton. I know James very, very well. He and the sheriff are two of my best friends and people that I work closest with here at the county, and they are good, good, good men. And now James's job is to prosecute this guy, and he's going to do it right because of his values and his moral compass and his understanding of the law and justice. But that's just been hard emotionally. I would point to two things. One, of course, is anybody that was in public service, I think, would have to point to the COVID issue, because as county judge in Texas, you're the head of emergency management in your county. And like in some very rural counties, the county judge is emergency management. I have an appointed emergency management coordinator, Cody Powell, who's incredible.
Exactly.
And
What a blessing.
he has his team. But even for trained emergency managers, there is no there was no handbook or training that we'd all been to
Uh-uh.
on that kind of thing. And it's like when you have a tornado or a flood, you can point to, or a wildfire, say, okay, here's what it is. Here's how we isolate it. Here's how we minimize the impact. We didn't have anything like this. And, we approached it from a standpoint of we wanted people to have information as we had it, and we wanted people to make responsible decisions for the situation that they were in. And um, by and large, Wise County appreciated that approach. Some didn't, of course, thought, we should have been cracking down on things more. I know it wouldn't have made any difference, and it wasn't the right thing to do. And and it was really hard then when a lot of stuff started being driven. I'll be careful. A lot of stuff started being driven from the state level. It wasn't at
Mhm.
first. It was kind of local control. Counties make independent decisions for what your county needs, and like our county is very different from Dallas County, and we had very different policies in place. Um, what was tough then is, things were rolling so fast, and you'd be getting a governor's press conference daily, weekly, as things are changing, and then new executive orders are rolling out. Well, as soon as a press conference would finish, which we're watching live just like everybody else, we didn't have advance notice on what new things were coming down.
So you were
And
watching it on your laptop just like I was,
yeah,
right?
then our office phone starts ringing from residents here saying, "Who, what does this mean? What do I do for my business?" Like, hey, I haven't gotten to read this
Yeah,
yet either,
yeah.
and it's you know here's the information we have. You make a responsible decision for the situation you're in, your health circumstances, what your family circumstance is. And I think, we got a pretty good handle on it. And I think Wise County fared very well compared to a lot of places. And did we learn things? Of course. Who didn't learn things during that?
Mhm.
The other thing, very different type issue that I would point to, that I think was really shaped me in a lot of ways as a county official and leader, is when I came in. I took office, and I guess it was my first budget, is when the oil and gas industry fell out on us, and mineral values completely tanked in Wise
Well,
County.
and briefly explain why that matters, because a lot of people don't understand that, how that affects
So yeah,
everything.
so I mean the system that we're given in Texas for county government to fund county services is the property tax system. We can do a half cent of sales tax, which we do, but that's not much in the grand scheme of things. I wish we could do more of that and less of property taxes. But the property tax system is what we're given right now, and it has flaws in it, as we know, and as a realtor and as a taxpayer, there are flaws in
Okay.
it. But that's our system.
Right.
And mineral values are a property value, and are taxed as part of your property taxes. So when oil and gas is booming and those minerals have high value, you're getting a lot of revenue off of that. And when they fall out, that goes away, but you still got this same level of service. And so my first budget coming in, the mineral values tanked, and I think we were looking at if I remember, about a $2 million shortfall in our budget. And I had to call all the department heads and elected officials together for my budget kickoff meeting and just walk them through the math of what we were looking at, and said, I need you guys to help me, and we got to
Yeah.
figure out how to do this,
Yeah.
because we're
Oh,
going to do it. We're going to do it without raising the tax rate, because that would have been the easy
uh-huh.
answer. Say we're going to raise the tax rate enough to offset this loss in mineral value. And I did not want to do that. Our commissioners court did not want to do that. And our community did not want us to do that. And so we had to get really creative and dig deep in figuring out what can we do, what can we do within our own offices and our operations to save money and and not sacrifice services, because service wise we don't have fluff in county government, here in Wise County. I know in some places they do. In Wise County, they don't, and especially in a growing county. And so basically, it was like, all right, as a team, as a county, we got to tighten our belt up. This situation will get better because this is a drop in oil and gas industry. Other things are going to happen economically in Wise County as we grow, and we will get out of this, and we have. And but that was tough. That was a really tough budget cycle.
It was
It was tough decisions that impacted people's offices and operations, but we did the right thing because we didn't increase the tax rate. We made our budget balance, and now since we did that, we've been able to benefit in the years since, as the county has grown and our county economic base has diversified.
Mhm.
We still will enjoy some benefits
Mhm.
when oil and gas peaks again.
Right.
But when it busts again, we're not going to have that hurt. We're in a much healthier financial budget standpoint. And so I'm really proud we did it that way. And, we're more diverse economically.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to, and it was tough to get there, but I'm glad we got there. And so
Well,
that first budget was a tough one.
Well, and it set a precedent, I think. Of course, I was not sitting there, but by taking that attitude and making that decision that you were going to address it that way, set a precedent that basically said, whenever we're faced with these tough decisions in the future, we're going to look at it as a whole and not just take the easy route. Unfortunately, we have to, and I think that's one of the problems we have in government as a whole, is sometimes it's easy to take the easy route. I'm going to refrain from saying what I'm thinking about what we're dealing with the national government right now.
Yes,
Anyway.
yes.
But I love that, because you are trying to protect us, the consumer, the residents, your constituents, as well as protecting the businesses. So that's when you said not raising the sales tax.
Yeah,
I love that, because that, that was a good choice.
and now as we've become more diverse economically, our sales tax is absolutely booming. Sales tax revenue.
Yeah.
And the more sales tax we get, the less I need property tax to make a budget work and to carry out county services. And that's fantastic. And we need more options like that.
So you have to be big picture, future.
Yeah. If our state guys are listening, we need more options.
I know. Well, okay. So those were some of the toughest. What are a couple of your proudest accomplishments, the things that you're proudest of? I know you spoke to the courthouse, but
the courthouse is massive, and long term, it's going to have such a positive impact. And so, personally, professionally, I'm so proud of that and so excited about that, because the county has wanted to get that done for a long time, has needed to get that done for a long time. That building, people appreciate its beauty on the outside, but on the inside, if you don't work in it, spend a lot of time in it, you don't realize the condition it's in. I mean, it's over 125 years old.
Yeah. Well, it's been a working courthouse for all those.
Yes, absolutely. And it needs help. And if we don't restore it, in 10 years, we probably wouldn't have been able to have it as a safe workplace anymore. And that would have been a tragedy. Because when it's gone, it's gone. And so proud of that, for a lot of reasons. I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to get the college bonds refinanced. So a lot of people don't realize the county built that building, the Weatherford College campus in Wise County. That's a county building that we hold bonds on. The college pays the lease. That's the amount of those bond payments each year. When the county first did that, and this was prior to me, it was an unusual arrangement for the county to build the building and the college to lease it from them with this college maintenance tax that the voters had approved. But since it was unusual, the county was not able to get a good interest rate on those bonds, and it was an 8% interest rate on $32 million in bonds. Well, neither the county nor the college had contemplated that type of interest rate. And so the college, basically so much of then that county tax revenue that the voters had said, yes, we want to have this college branch campus maintenance tax, so much of it is having to go for interest and not for college programs like people had intended out there, and for workforce programs. So we worked really hard to get that done last year. And we were able to, it took a lot of work, because we thought, okay, what was the weakness before? Well, it was an unusual situation. And so we did a lot of work telling the story of this relationship, and now a 10-year track record on that campus of how it's working. What are we doing? What are these workforce programs doing in the community with the nursing and the welding and the cosmetology and all that? And we were able to get that refinanced, and we were at 8%. We were thinking, gosh, if we cut it in half and got to 4%, that'd be great. Well, we got under 3%.
That's incredible.
And we did not have to extend the life of the bonds. They're still going to
Wow.
be paid off at the same amount. And so we're saving about $12 million in taxpayers paying an interest over the remaining life of those bonds. Super proud of that. And now that, and it's been a great thing for that campus out there as well. Their enrollment was up this year by over 100 students this semester. I think at the beginning of the college year, the most growth in the Weatherford College system happened at the Wise County, percentage wise, happened at the Wise County campus. And so that's huge. And they're doing a lot of really exciting workforce things out there.
That's great. It's a beautiful facility. Um,
Yeah.
they're very generous. I know there's a lot of, they let organizations meet there as well, and to utilize the space. And so
Yeah.
it's a great place.
And
So,
so, and then other things I'm proud of is just from a budget and tax rate standpoint, we've consistently lowered the tax rate as we've grown. That's how it's supposed to work. Your values go up, which they are for everybody. Your tax rate should go down. But we're in the bottom 16 or 18 out of 254 counties of lowest property tax rates for county government in the state. And as we grow, we're going to be able to lower that even more. And as our sales tax continues to perform, we're going to be able to lower that even more. That's why you're seeing businesses be successful here, because they look at where we are with location and regulatory burden and tax burden. We're a lot better pitch than a lot of places, to be honest, and that's a good thing. I'm very proud. We're one of the things that we had identified that we wanted to get done is overhaul and upgrade the entire public safety radio system. And
oh,
from
yes.
having law enforcement in your family, like that's a life or death thing if their radio's not working. And so that's underway right now and will be finished by the end of 2023. We've
The
got a big broadband project.
I was going to say the Emergency Management Center.
Yeah, the Emergency Operations Center is huge. That was one of the holes we identified during the what we call it, ice apocalypse,
Oh,
ice
yes.
Mageddon. I don't know what it's called. That's one of the holes we identified, that we did not have a multi-jurisdictional place for all these different responder agencies to get together in the same room and coordinate and share resources in real time. And so we did that, and we're able to use that when the tornado came through a few weeks ago. That
Wow.
EOC was up and running, and it made such a difference in timeliness of response and who's got what, who's covering what. And it was fantastic. And then two, more broadly looking, I would just say something that I'm very proud of for the county is, I referenced earlier the appointed department heads that we have. We have put together the most professional, first-rate team of department heads that Wise County has ever had as a whole. And we've had great people serve over the years. But I think pound for pound, office for office, my goodness, I'd put Wise County up against anybody else with intelligence and ability. With our department heads and appointed officials. They're fantastic.
Yeah, we're really blessed. I know because, as I said, I've taken a lot of people around the county, and they're sort of surprised at the level of professionalism and accomplishment of a lot of people. Even though we're so close to the Metroplex, people tend to think that we don't have the highest level of intelligence.
Yep.
But you go to almost anything and just talk to somebody and find out they're some big deal somewhere. I went to, this is just the most random thing here in Alvord. There was this guy opened up his farm. You could go see his farm, and I'm just standing there talking to this guy, and we were talking about the plight of cedar trees, which I learned from, can be, they can be real problematic, especially during a drought. And I learned that from the extension office.
Yep.
And I'm talking to this guy who lives here, and he's a cameraman with a large organization, national company, and he had done some documentaries on that. I'm just
Oh
like,
wow.
an out.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
So
it's just we sit in this really jewel of a spot that it
we
is.
do.
There is so much rural small town feel still out here, and
Uh-huh,
we're doing everything we can to preserve that. But
uh-huh.
you're close enough to anything you'd ever want to go do, and there's more and more here at home you can go do and
Right.
shop and eat.
Uh-huh.
But also, if you have a job like that guy, you can live somewhere like this, but be at
Right.
an international airport in no time to get wherever
Right.
you got to be.
Well,
And
and we've got two intercrossing roads with Highway
yep,
380 and 287. So you really can get anywhere you need to be pretty quickly. So,
yep, absolutely. It's really amazing, and that's where our work comes in. That we are going to keep growing as people realize that, and so that's why we can't lose these great small town rural things
right.
because that's what's drawing them out here. Most of
Yes.
those people, they don't want it to look like a bedroom community on the highway either.
No.
So we've got to be active in preserving heritage as we can, and
Yeah,
that's kind of the framework for all our decisions. Like,
I
you
love
know, yes we're planning for growth, yes we're preparing and accommodating for growth as we can, but make sure we're not sacrificing
it. Yeah,
something of who we are to get there. And
right. That's good. Well, we're almost time to close out. Do you
yeah, I probably talked longer than you
No,
wanted me
I
to.
love it. I love hearing it. And this is probably the longest conversation you and I have gotten to have
In a long time. Yeah.
in a long time. Do you have any guiding principles or guiding scriptures or anything that you'd like to share? Again, I want to encourage people if they're faced with the decision or if they're looking to change their life. Is there any encouragement you could give in that way?
Yeah, so two things that tie together is there's a quote in a scripture. So a quote by Fredrick Buechner, if I'm saying his name right, and he was a religious thinker and writer.
Uh-huh.
He said that the place God calls you to, and I'll probably mangle this a little bit.
No, that's okay.
The place God calls you to is where your deep gladness and the world's great hunger meet.
Oh, I love that. That's really good.
And so, not just about what makes you happy, because that is important,
Mhm,
but what makes you happy that's also filling a greater need
mhm.
than just yourself. That's where God's calling you to.
That's good.
Because you don't necessarily need to go do something that's going to make you miserable just to fulfill a need for somebody, because that's not healthy for your family either.
Right.
But where are you glad and fulfilling a greater need for your world, your community? And when I say community, I mean, our county, our town, your church, a nonprofit, a group of like-minded people. That's your community. What need are you filling? But the flip side is too, the place God's calling you to is in my scripture. I always remind people of is Isaiah 6:8. And God is the Lord saying, whom shall I send? Say, here I am, Lord, send me. And
Exactly.
what's important about that is, here I am, Lord, send me to the place I thought I was already going to go, or send me to the place that would be easier or more fun. It's no, when you say, here I am, Lord, send me, then you're standing there receptive and ready to go do whatever he calls you to, whether that's something you expected, something that's difficult, something that's a little scary. But when you put yourself out there and say, I want to fulfill a need. Where do you need me? You better be ready, and
Yeah,
go where you're led to go. And it is probably not a path you expected, and that's probably a good thing.
exactly. I did a study once. I taught a class, and it was called "Hang On for the Ride," and it was about the life of the Apostle Paul. When he set out as a young Pharisee, very zealous for what he was doing. He never expected his life to end up the way it did, and very little of what, if you look at the the literal places he walked and the things he did, very little of it looked like ministry, what we would call ministry at the time. But at the end of the day, he wrote biblical truths, doctrine that we still rely on today. And
Yep.
so a lot of times we just, like you said, here I am, Lord, send me. And if we're willing to adapt to wherever it is he sends us and stop at the burning bushes.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and get out of
Then,
your own tunnel vision of what you've got in mind, and
uh-huh,
be receptive, and you'll be shocked at some of the opportunities that present themselves for you to meet a need somewhere for somebody
exactly.
or an organization. It's out there if we're willing to listen and
Just go for it.
yeah.
Walk through every door God opens, right?
Yep,
That's
absolutely.
good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking this
Yeah,
time.
I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, this was fun. This was really fun. So, if you would close us out in prayer, then I'm going to close out the podcast. Okay.
Okay, you bet.
Thank you.
So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this opportunity for Connie and I to sit together and share and learn more about each other and laugh and think too. And God, we just ask that you bless each of us as we go about our work in the community, and bless us to do our work and live our lives, and the people we touch do that in a way that's pleasing to you in accordance with your word. And God, we just ask that you lift up and protect all of Wise County and all those who work to make it a great place to live. We ask all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Lord, thank you. Well, thank you again, Judge J.D. Clark, the County Judge of Wise County, Texas, and my friend.
Yes.
And for all of y'all who are listening, thank you so much for taking time. Please like, share this video. I'll post it on Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, and links on Facebook and Twitter, so you don't have any problem finding it. And just share it with your friends. It's my heart to encourage you as you're facing any decisions in your life you need to make. If you want to find out more about my ministry, you can go to www.characterleadershipintegrity.com. Or if you want to buy or sell a house, you can go to yestheconnector.com and see my real estate information. Thank you, Judge. I hope you have a wonderful
Thank you, Connie.
years.
Yes. Happy New Year's to you and Earl.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Make him cook you something good.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I will. I will. Thank you, Judge.
Thanks,
You take
Connie.
care.
You too.
Bye-bye.